name's Rick Boogs, and I came to rock with the Beyond the Mats podcast that is beyond the MATT podcast.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Beyond the Mat podcast. It's Monday, so we must be reviewing Monday Night Raw tonight. Matt here from Delaware, and I'm joined tonight by my guest, Brad. He'll be with us for a short period of time tonight, probably not the duration of the show. How you doing tonight, Brad?
Hello, good.
All right, Brad. We had a pretty good episode of Raw tonight. I think, they changed some things I think that we were expecting. We were looking for a women's tag team title match that got deferred to next week. Instead, we saw Liv Morgan take on Sasha Banks. We also saw Cody Rhodes in his first match ever on Raw against The Miz, which a lot of people were up in arms about, saying WWE's booking him into oblivion with somebody like The Miz, which I say to the contraire, because on Busted Open today, Cody did say, to the point of his creative in WWE, there is no contractual agreement to his creative control, but he will embrace everything that's given to him, and he will do the best that he can with everything that's given to him. And in the WWE, if you do that, you're well on your way to winning a championship and achieving your childhood dream of being a champion. And I think we're going to see that happen in time. We saw a good example of what Cody Rhodes can do in the ring with somebody who's honestly pretty boring in the ring, in The Miz tonight. We also saw the Usos crash the RK Bro and challenge them. A couple good tag team matches, as well as a very weird finish to an AJ Styles and Damian Priest matchup. What did you think of everything overall tonight, Brad?
Well, I mean, maybe I was out in left field, but I thought this was one of the better episodes of Raw I've seen in many months. I mean, this was so good. We had, first of all, the opening segment with Cody and The Miz was really enjoyable. It was terrific. And then I loved how this episode seemed to have less filler. It just, for some reason, a lot less video packages, but somehow it went a lot faster. Like, it just seemed to flow better. It seemed to be like a little bit more of a better pace than you normally see out of Raw. Like, I don't know. I actually even found the Bobby Lashley segment to be kind of captivating in a certain way. I thought that the Cody Rhodes Miz match was actually a really good match with a lot of interesting things. I got to give RK Bro a lot of credit. They were out there literally from 9:59 till 11:01. I mean, a full hour out there. Obviously not wrestling the entire time, but still like just a lot of screen time and a lot of action from them. And I think you set things up for a really exciting kind of thing going on with Randy and the Usos and RK Bro. And, it was just terrific. I mean, overall, I thought this episode was great. I even liked the Bianca segment where she got attacked by Sonya Deville. Look, I'm not thrilled about Sonya Deville being her next opponent, but I thought it was a good segment. What did you think about that stuff?
Yeah, I agree. I thought the match with Cody and Miz was outstanding. It really demonstrated to us what Cody can do in the ring, but also, the purpose of the match, I thought was, it served a good purpose. It put him in there against someone who's safe, someone that the crowd hates. You want to cement him as a babyface coming in here to fans who may not be, let's face it, not all WWE fans, casual fans, every single family that goes to a Raw knows everything about Cody Rhodes and knows what he brings to the table. And so you put him in there with somebody like The Miz that everybody knows to boo and knows we hate The Miz. And they have their talking segment to really get some heat there on The Miz. And they had the match, and it helps supplant him as a babyface. And then they put a bow on it by having Seth come back in the ring, and they make the challenge, and Cody accepts for Rollins Rhodes Part 2. So I thought that was great. I thought that the DeVille thing was very interesting. I think everybody in the world was like, "Hey, who's returning now? Is
Yeah,
it
Bailey or Asuka.
Bailey or Asuka?" Well, Asuka's not even in ring cleared to return medically. So everybody, I said that to a bunch of people were asking me. I said, "No, not her. It could be Bailey," and I was thinking somebody, and then just when they were backstage, I thought it was going to be somebody other than DeVille. When she was out there, once she started talking, I was like, "There's something not right here." And then, so she chop blocks her. It looks like we're going to get a program with Bianca Belair and Sonya Deville as her first title defense program. I don't have a problem with it because it seems like working towards this next pay-per-view, they're really trying to double down on the Charlotte and Ronda feud. Because I don't think that they really crescendoed it at WrestleMania. And to do that with the I Quit match for that pay-per-view, and it being a lower level pay-per-view as it is, they're sort of stacking up the other matches to not overshadow that. Because
I agree.
I guarantee you that Flair and Rousey made a big stink about not being a main event on WrestleMania, and they will be the main event of this next one. And so
I got to tell you, man, the last match too, not to go away from that, but the last match between the Street Profits and the Usos was just almost like a pay-per-view caliber quality match with so many. It was such a well thought out match with so many good spots at the end, and you thought that this was going to be the finisher and it wasn't, and then you thought that was going to be the finisher and it wasn't, and then that happened like 4 or 5 times, and it was just such a good match, man. It just, again, it felt like a pay-per-view match. It did not feel like a Monday Night Raw match. And the other thing that I really liked was that normally you have the Miz, Cody Rhodes, that type of segment, and that leads to that's going to be the main event. So that's going to start the show, and then that's going to end the show. I loved how about 40 minutes later, they both came out for the match. It wasn't even, you didn't, it just was a different flow than you normally feel. Like, I love how that match started at 9:00, and that wasn't a 10:40 p.m. match. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was definitely paced differently than we normally see. And since we're in sort of a new year, so to speak, now that WrestleMania is over, now we don't need to recap everything from there, except for a couple different things. We don't need to show a million video packages to support the feuds that we're building for WrestleMania because it's over. And now we get to see new things happen. So they really need to use this time. That even introducing Tommaso Ciampa tonight, they rubbed him against Kevin Owens and stuff like that. I thought that was smart. So they're now using Kevin Owens' popularity and his mic skills to sort of rub against Ciampa and rub against, obviously, Ezekiel is the main one. But back to what we were saying about the pay-per-view, we got Backlash coming up. It looks like we're going to have DeVille and Belair working towards that. It looks like we're going to have a tag unification match working towards that. It looks like we have Reigns and Nakamura working towards that. And then our main event would be Flair and Ronda. And that's the one feud, not the one feud, but of the title feuds, that's the one that did not crescendo at WrestleMania. And it's almost like, I hate to continue to make a video game reference, but it's almost like if you're playing My GM mode in 2K22 and you go to a pay-per-view and you put 2 people against each other who are in a rivalry, but it's only level 2, and the fans don't like the match very much because there's not that much heat built up there already. And I think at WrestleMania, they just didn't do a good job with the build of that. And so they're trying to recalibrate it. I still am not a huge fan of it, but an I Quit match is certainly something that is going to be a little bit more interesting than the kind of match that they tried to put on at WrestleMania. But beyond that, I thought tonight, I agree with you. I really liked the way that they opened the show, and then they didn't make us wait all night to wait for the Cody Miz match. Thought it was really good. And with the Roman Reigns, how do you feel about Roman Reigns and Shinsuke, Brad?
I don't, honestly, man, I don't love it because I feel like it's such an obvious win for Roman, and I understand that that's what it's going to be. No one thinks he's going to lose it this quick, but I just would rather see a more formidable opponent, especially that Shinsuke's been injured. And in the ring, Shinsuke, to me, maybe Matt, you have a different opinion, but to me, he doesn't look like himself. He doesn't look like he moves right. He doesn't really have kind of the move set that I felt like he had before he got hurt. It just seems like he's limited. And it just seems like he's not ready for an opening match at a pay-per-view, which I assume this would be, because I assume Ronda would be the closing match, the main event, quote unquote. But it's I don't know. It doesn't really do it for me, although I do love them both as performers.
Right. I think the main thing, like, with this, is that you have to think about everything they have around it, and that's sort of why they have this. And what better option do they have? Because if you think of alternatives, you would say McIntyre, Lashley, Rhodes. Those are three baby faces right there. But Lashley's working with Omos right now. Rollins is working with Rhodes. Edge is a heel who's working with Styles, so Styles is out of the equation. And then, Owens and Ezekiel. So you just don't have the options there. And so then you go to your next top guy, who's now a singles because his tag team partner got hurt, and it's Nakamura. Is that a believable opponent that's going to beat him? No, but it's certainly somebody that could put on a good match with him. I'm wondering if this was the original plan for them to lose for Boogs and Nakamura to lose to the Usos at WrestleMania, but Boogs definitely show that he's got a power advantage over the Usos. Then Nakamura go into this program with Reigns for Backlash. Boogs be, firing everybody up for the intro. That would have made it seem bigger than it is. And
No doubt.
also being sort of an equalizer for the Usos, like at ringside, demonstrating in those tag matches he can fireman's carry both of them. So I wonder if that was the original plan and where this came from. But I think if we can get past the fact that it's not a believable defeat, we don't want Roman to lose now anyway. And if we understand that all these other guys that we want to see him face are getting heated up for bigger pay-per-views, they're going to put Lashley against Reigns. They're going to do McIntyre, and they're going to do Rhodes. We just got to give it some time, I think. And
yeah, I did find it interesting that tonight Rhodes said he was gunning for the undisputed Universal Championship, or whatever vernacular he used. He basically said, "I'm gunning for you, Roman Reigns, tonight." Correct?
Well, yeah, he mentioned Universal title, which I made a note of that because he didn't say WWE title, which is the one he said before. It's almost like somebody told him to say that, because if he says WWE title, then that tips off that it's going to be broken back up. So he's just got to say what the championship currently is. I don't know.
Right.
But
Right.
the belt unification thing, I don't think can last, because you have to have something on both shows consistently for everybody to fight for. Now you're in a position where Roman just beat Brock Lesnar, so that's why we don't think Shinsuke Nakamura is a viable opponent. I love Nakamura, just like you do, just like a
Yep.
lot of people do. But it's like, and I believe they can put on a good match. Now, I'll tell you one of the things that I think is dangerous about putting non credible opponents against your champion. Nakamura could get in there with Reigns. They could have their match laid out, and he could hit a Kinshasa and actually connect on it. Give him a concussion, go for a cover that's supposed to be a near fall, and Reigns forgets to kick out or some shit. And then you're stuck with Nakamura as your fucking champion because something happened during the match. Because things can always happen. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So for me, I would always, even though that's not going to happen, and I would never wish on anybody that they get concussed at any time, much less during a wrestling match. But things can happen. What if you're booking Reigns against Xavier Woods and Xavier Woods fucking wins because Reigns accidentally got knocked out, or because the Usos took too long to pull him out of the ring and the referee counted all the way to 3 and it's on camera. You know what I'm saying? And that's why
Absolutely.
when they have those kind of matches, they're at risk. And that's what, honestly, for me, that's what makes them exciting. Like that there's a part of it that there's some realism there, that the unexpected could happen, even though I know that the unexpected in this case most likely isn't scripted.
Yeah, look, man. I mean, first of all, speaking of Boogs, that intro that you just had is unbelievable. The energy level it's not even out of 10. It's at like 100. Um, that is an incredible piece of work by
And
Boogs.
we're trying not to put people to sleep here, man. We're trying not to take after Ronda Rousey here.
That is just fantastic work. But I wonder if Boogs comes down to the ring and with you don't think they would send him down to the ring to do the intro with crutches or something like that for that match, right?
Nah, who knows, man. I mean, if we don't
Yeah,
see him anytime between now and Backlash, then he's.
probably not.
I mean, that kind of injury takes. I mean, it's going to take him 12 months to get back, and he probably can't start rehabbing it for like several months. So who knows if he can even get around to do that.
Right.
I wouldn't rule it out that before he can make a return, and even while he's still casted or in crutches, that we see him in some capacity. But I think right now it's a little early,
Yeah,
given the severity.
I hear you. Just because that would be a very big match for his best buddy,
Yeah, it'd be cool.
Very big.
It'd be cool, man. I would like.
Yeah.
Everybody likes to see Boogs, man. And
Well, regardless, yeah, I hear what you're saying, man. It doesn't really do it for me personally, but I think they even could have done a Roman Seth rematch at this thing, very easily. I don't understand what there's no stakes to the Cody Rhodes Rollins thing. I think it's pretty clear that there's a very limited chance that they're going to book Rhodes to lose, right? So what? Seth just takes another loss here. Is that the way this goes down?
well, the thing is, Rollins made it clear tonight that at WrestleMania he wasn't prepared because Cody was a mystery opponent, and so Cody could prepare for him. Rollins could not prepare for Cody, so he wants to run it back with them for that reason. I would imagine Cody's going to go over, but who knows? Seth could go over. They could have a rubber match. Cody doesn't need to win this match to necessarily keep his stuff going, depending on how everything else is booked. So right now, just looking at everything, yeah, you would assume Cody would win again because they're obviously heating him up. He's a baby face. And I get it about Seth and Roman, but you can't do it because he's working with Cody, and they need to have somebody work with Cody who's strong, who's on the heel side, and that people will see this and be like, okay, like if I don't know Cody Rhodes and I say, okay, he's wrestling Seth Rollins like this, he must be a pretty big deal. Then if he
Pretty big deal, right?
so that's they just have to book things a certain way long term. And that's what I like, right? This is what the way that I'm seeing this is like one of the first times in a while that I can actually see a conceptualized long term plan in various angles. You know what I mean? That might play out. You got your little short term storylines that are happening, but you also have some long term stuff. And I think that Cody, because like we say, anything can happen. Vince McMahon can book whatever the hell he wants. The creative team can book whatever the hell they want to. The stuff with Cody could flame out. But the way that he talked on Busted Open today, when they asked him about creative control, he said he didn't give a damn whether it was written. He said it was basically a handshake agreement, And in his mind, he just needs to take whatever he's given creatively and make the most of it, and then he'll be continued to be given good things to do creatively, which is what happens. I mean, look at Madcap Moss given a complete shit gimmick, and now he's fucking over like Rover when he turns on Corbin because he embraced that bullshit gimmick. That's going to pay off for him in the long run. And
No
so,
doubt.
and obviously, Madcap Moss is no Cody Rhodes, but just that's an example of where you can get strapped with a shitty gimmick, you can get strapped with wrestling the Miz, you can get strapped with whatever. But if you do it well and you make it right, they're gonna fucking want to put you out there even more and reward you for that because you're making their ideas look good. So,
Yes, correct. And look, man, to me, it was just a great episode. Really enjoyable, very fun to watch. Again, not slow. A lot of great things about it, and I would imagine that a lot of people felt this way. I mean, I can't see how you didn't at least semi like this episode.
yeah, so after we had the Miz TV segment, a little bit of heat back and forth. Miz actually tried to attack Cody there, but Cody ducked it and discharged Miz from the ring. But following that, we saw Dominic Mysterio versus Veer. This was originally supposed to be Veer and Rey Mysterio, and this was a complete squash domination. Dom had about 10 seconds of an advantage here, and then he just got totally dominated with a couple lariats, uh, threw him outside, through the barricade at the ringside area. Then he locked on a cervical stretch submission, made Dom tap in about 5 seconds, and then he would not release it. Security, referee, everybody comes out, tries to break this up, doesn't want to release it, finally does. Dom gets stretchered out, put in an ambulance. Then we see Kevin Patrick backstage, asks Veer, why'd you do that? Why didn't you release it? And he simply says, I strike fear into the heart of any man.
Yep, like a savage.
Like a savage. And it was so we got Dominic here getting completely injured and completely kayfabe injured. And it looks like they might be doing this to write him off TV for a little bit. And it's got me wondering, is that what Veer's for here?
No, I personally thought it was to add heat to a Rey Mysterio Veer match, possibly even a Backlash, like to make it like the stakes higher.
Yeah, I think the purpose of the match was probably they pivoted away from Ray, put Mysterio out there to get some heat between the two of them. Makes sense. Um, why they needed to make Dominic look like crap like that for the second week in a row. I mean, it seems like usually when they do this and they got somebody in the ambulance, we're not going to see him for a couple weeks. But that certainly would make Ray have the motivation to actually want to fight Veer. You know what I'm saying? And maybe that'll be a good match. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
Mysterio being cruiserweight like that with a monster like Veer, maybe it'll give Veer some legs here. And he'll last more than a couple of weeks because I'm just seeing the way they're presenting him, like just this guy that doesn't sell and just completely manhandles everybody with no story is not going to work. But here they're applying it to the Mysterios. We'll see how it plays out. Just having them against Ray tonight, I think would have been a mistake because then you're just playing the one-off. Let's get heat on this guy for attacking one of our oldest baby faces. Now, if it's going a little bit more long term, it might actually work out. So that's a good point.
That's what I think it was for personally. But I guess Ray maybe had another commitment tonight, couldn't be there, but they decided to do this and run with that. I mean, that's what it seems like. Like who else would he? And I think he's the type that they would want to feature on a major thing. That like WrestleMania Backlash. Veer.
Well, yeah, they definitely want to get him out there, at least now. For a while, they didn't. They just wanted to show us that he was coming, and now he came, and he's going to try to conquer Rey Mysterio. Looks like at the next pay-per-view, because we didn't get a match announced next week with Rey, so maybe we won't see Veer for a week, and then Rey will come back and try to seek redemption for what happened to his son. But later on, we get a video of earlier in the day. We had Styles getting interviewed backstage, sees Damian Priest. They start brawling, sets up a match between AJ, Damian Priest. This was actually a pretty decent match here. Styles was aggressive. He kind of dominated this match. He hit a really nice reverse DDT on Priest after he jumped over him. Hit some springboard moves. He set up for the phenomenal forearm finally at the end. This after he countered a Reckoning with a beautiful Pele kick. And all of a sudden, after Priest knocks AJ off the apron, the lights go out. And then a spotlight comes down on Priest in a bluish tint, and he's making this ridiculous face, like he's same shit he was doing with his Jekyll and Hyde gimmick. And then we cut the commercial, come back, lights are back on, match is over. And we get Styles backstage saying this is bullshit. I'm not going to let anybody stand in the way of me getting what I want, which is effectively kicking Edge's ass. But I actually liked watching the match. I liked AJ Styles getting his offense in on Priest selling for him good, and then we get a bullshit ending, just like we got at fucking WrestleMania. What do you think of that?
That was more than a bullshit ending, though, to me. Like, that was just, like, it wasn't like a disqualification. Like, it's one thing if Edge comes out and hits him with a chair and everything gets disqualified or something like that. This was like, it made no sense. First of all, the lighting's being controlled by the stadium, so it's like not like it's not like, oh, like the lights went out. It's that's kind of such a stupid excuse. But I man, I can't get into that ending, man. I wish I could, but it's very tough to embrace that.
And it was a good match too, man. I mean, they were putting
Yeah.
Styles over big time. He beat the hell out of Priest, got him outside, was smashing his head over the announce table, over the apron. He sent him into the timekeeper's area. You know what I mean? At one point, Priest slipped out of a backbreaker, and Styles said, "Oh no, you don't," and put him right back into the same backbreaker. I mean, Priest didn't do shit in this match except for the one point where he hit a bell clap and then hit like a reverse Uranagi end of days type maneuver that got a near fall. But other than that, he knocks Styles off the fucking apron and the goddamn lights go off. And I wonder if, we didn't see Edge tonight. We didn't see that much of this faction shit getting pushed tonight.
No.
We didn't see the turn of Rhea tonight. We didn't see Ciampa do anything else but introduce himself. Those are the two people we're hearing as our first, the first disciples, other than Priest joining this thing.
Well, the other aspect along the lines of what you were speaking about, I'm sorry. It didn't seem like Tommaso Ciampa was ready for any sort of evil turn tonight. It was kind of like a humorous little segment he had with Kevin Owens. So it didn't seem like that was part of the fray, but.
Well, certainly not tonight. I don't think any of it was part of the fray. And what I was trying to say was that I wonder if, I criticized it last week, and you heard me criticize it and suggest what they should do. And I wonder if that's what they're doing. I wonder if they're toning it back a little bit with this shit. Now, I don't know if this fucking bullshit finish is what you would define as toning it back, but
Yeah, and maybe it's just a Edge Damian Priest alliance, and that's what it comes down to. Also, we were supposed to see you mentioned Rhea. I think we were supposed to see, right, Sasha and Naomi versus Rhea and Liv Morgan. They even showed the video package from last week for a minute.
Yeah, I said that earlier. That was what the advertised match was, but they pulled that and just had Morgan go against Naomi tonight. In a quick match, Naomi picked up the win after they exchanged roll-ups. But
Which made no sense, right? Because what does that prove? So if Liv beats Sasha on SmackDown, which she did, and then comes out there and beats Naomi tonight, then you're like, oh, we could do this match. But now it's like, okay, well, didn't beat them both. There's almost no claim for them to even have a tag. I really thought Liv was going to beat Naomi tonight, just for that simple reason.
Well, yeah, I mean they do that shit all the fucking time though, where they have a tag title match coming up, and then you're gonna have each they break it up and have the women fight singles matches in every combination you can make. We saw it before WrestleMania with the Fatal 4-Way. They had all these Fatal 4-Way single matches or triple threat or this woman versus this woman, and oftentimes it's the non-champion team wins the single matches, all of them, and then the tag team goes over. So if you have the tag team going over here, then it sort of evens the math out. And it's like, wait a minute, maybe they could lose. Instead of seeing, I know what you're saying about seeing, it makes it look like they have more of a chance if Liv goes over. But then when you're thinking about it in terms of what sort of the smart wrestling fan thinks, the last one to win is the one who's going to end up losing the big match. In this case, they had Liv go over so that it's 50-50. And it's like, wait a minute. Maybe they're not going, or they had Naomi go over Liv so that you're like, wait a minute, maybe the champs are going to lose. We know they're not.
Right, correct. No, I hear you. And the only reason why I say that is because last Monday, right, Liv and Rhea lost. Then you had the makeup where Liv wins against Sasha. And then I thought tonight, so they could stake their claim as like, okay, you know what I'm saying? We really earned this tag team title rematch because Liv beat both of them, even though we together just lost to both of them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I know what you're saying about the back and forth, and I totally.
But like, they didn't earn anything. They clearly didn't earn anything. They lost the match.
Correct. They earned nothing.
And then they asked for it. So like, none of this shit has anything to do with earning it. It has to do with whether or not someone's getting momentum going into their championship match, with which Naomi has the momentum now. So we're supposed to think the champs have the momentum. Maybe the challengers can win. Last Friday, we saw Baszler and Natalya watching the match that Morgan was having with Banks that she won. And then today it came out, Andrew Zarian from Matmen reported that Rousey is apparently supposed to be lining herself with Shayna Baszler in a tag team. Now, how the hell is that happening when Rousey's tied up in this I Quit match and Baszler and Natalya were just shown together as if they have some interest in the tag championships?
That is an incredible piece of news. And I can't imagine that. I mean, it's accurate because, like you just said, it makes zero sense, bro. It makes zero sense, bro. Like, you can't. So the only way that tag team happens, maybe I'm wrong, but is if Ronda Rousey says, I quit, and they're not going to do that to her. They're not going to have her say, I quit. Right?
No, she's not losing this match.
Right. So she's going to, so then that report just can't be right.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a thought at some point after she lost, like, okay, we'll align her, we'll give her a belt that way. They'll beat Sasha and Naomi, but no.
Yeah.
Can't happen.
Who the fuck knows, man?
I mean, do you see any logical scenario where that happens, bro?
No, that's why I said he reported it, and I don't think it's true, but who the hell knows? Everybody reports things. Some people are right. Some people are wrong. It's just a talking point.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting.
But yeah, we get Lashley coming out here boasting about how last week should have been a celebration and that the one person he trusted more than anybody, MVP, stabbed him in the back. And he's crashing MVP's VIP lounge. Now, it wasn't as easy for him to say all that as it was for me, because he stumbled over his words several times. But he wants MVP to come out and give an explanation for why he turned on him. Eventually, we wait a little bit. We have Lashley continue to egg on MVP. Eventually, we hear Omos's music. MVP comes out, says that he left Bobby Lashley because he didn't want to share his moment with him, and that he made Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley wouldn't be who he was without MVP. He was doing TikTok and obsessed with other shit when MVP came, and MVP made him a champion. And so,
Who was doing TikTok, by the way, Matt?
was that?
Who was the person doing? I didn't understand the TikTok
He was
reference.
talking about MVP, or he was talking about Bobby Lashley and all kinds of shit that he was involved with before. But the point was that he wasn't succeeding, and now he's found success ever since MVP's there. That was his point. And now he's saying he's got Omos, who's much more dangerous than Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley's saying, "Listen, I'm gonna cut down Omos again, and then I'm coming for you, MVP." And then we basically get the end of it. MVP destroys the VIP lounge set. I'm sorry, Lashley destroys MVP's VIP lounge set. And then we're out of there for that one. So we got a continuing feud there with Lashley.
I mean, did you like that segment?
Yeah, I thought it was effective for what it was doing. Omos looked pretty dapper out there in his suit. MVP did a really good job on the mic. Lashley did what he could. That's pretty much what I expect from Lashley. A couple.
Yeah, man. I like you said about Omos, I did like the suit. I thought it was a good look for him. I think, he needs to, he can't be coming out in a dirty black tank top every day and be expected to be taken seriously. He came out there in that suit with the turtleneck. He actually looked halfway respectable,
Yeah, and I mean, when he was first with Styles, he used to dress in like suits and like a long coat, and he wouldn't wear that shit that he was wearing. But I do I like the presentation of MVP and Omos. I like the fact that we didn't have to hear Omos really say anything, and that MVP did all the talking for him. Lashley made a couple missteps, but he still effectively delivered the promo. He still had the crowd's sympathy. You know what I mean? And it just worked for me.
Yeah, no doubt. I actually it was one of those things that you feel like you're this is kind of shitty, but I couldn't stop watching it, and I don't know why. And I agree with you. Lashley's promo was not good. He's really not a great speaker on the mic. He fumbles his words, whatever. But there was something captivating about it, and I almost can't even put my finger on what it is, but it was just interesting.
Yeah, so we get the Miz and the Cody match. We got Seth on commentary. He interrupts the start of the match with it. Cody ends up winning this one. Really good long match. Looked good. They brought outside a little bit. Cody had the advantage most of the time. It's some really nice looking moves. Finished it with a Cody cutter from the second rope. Then he hit a crossroads for the 1-2-3. Then we see Rollins come in the ring and say, "How about Rollins Rhodes Part 2?" Had some cackling in there mixed in. Rhodes accepts the challenge, and that's where we're going with them. But I thought at this point, I was saying this was the match of the night. But once we got to the main event, I changed my mind. But
no doubt.
But as far as singles go, this was outstanding, especially for early in the night for anything involving the Miz. This was good.
Yeah.
And it didn't.
Yeah, there was
it did not hurt Cody to fucking be in a match with the Miz. I mean, it's just like Sami Zayn said on the podcast he interviewed before WrestleMania. He was on Out of Character podcast, just dropped this morning. All right, what Zayn said, he was asked a couple questions about how he feels about how he's used, how he feels about how he's paid, how he feels about working with Knoxville, shit like that. And he says that he's thrilled with the position WWE puts him in. He's embracing the roles he's given. He's very grateful for the time that he gets on TV. Whatever the time he gets, he relishes it, no matter what the script is, and tries to do the best that he can because he's not, those opportunities could be few and far between. And so whether it's with Knoxville or with McIntyre or with fucking Roman Reigns, he's going to hit it out of the park because, that's the mentality he brings to it. And I think that's the same mentality Cody brings to it. And I think that's why Cody's going to produce good matches and he's going to continue to move up the ladder and be in the picture for a title at some point.
And that those are great points by Sammy and really awesome things that he said. And I think that, Seth is very similar too in that way. Seth is a real company guy. He'll take the losses.
And
He'll
Owens,
be the fall guy. Owens too, but I think Seth is like the ultimate company guy. And there's nothing wrong with being a company guy. You know what I mean? Like I personally, in a lot of ways, you're being paid to do something, you're being paid handsomely well. I think it came out that Seth and his wife make a combined $6 million a year. And that's before merchandising and royalties and anything. So you can imagine that they're living a pretty damn nice life off this wrestling. And it's a good mentality to say, hey, I'm grateful for what I have going on here, and I'm not going to bitch and moan about my position, and that's really cool. And the one thing about the Cody and Seth match is, does it look like Cody Rhodes' finisher is like a little sloppy? Like, it doesn't look like it's a hard hitting thing. It looks like you kind of just fall to the floor and flop a little bit. Am I viewing this wrong, Matt?
I think it's fine. He flips somebody over and puts their face on the ground. I mean, I think there's far more finishers that are less impactful than that one. Maybe he's just not executing it clean right now, but I think it's okay. I mean, everybody knows him for it. It's not something that is going to change or anything. It is what it is. But I don't know. That's where they're going with that match. But some other news we had today. A lot of people have been talking about Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss got married over the weekend. And in addition to that, we haven't seen Shotzi Blackheart in a while. She had a nagging back injury. And a lot of times with these people that have injuries and they have other things going on around WrestleMania time, they don't get booked at all because if they're at all in jeopardy of missing something or taking time off after WrestleMania, they're not going to involve them in a program if they're not in the WrestleMania mix because they need to spend all the time they can on WrestleMania. So that's why we haven't seen some of these women lately. Aaliyah's part of that. We're going to start seeing some people reappear tonight. We actually saw Nikki TR ASH reemerge tonight in the 24/7 segment. Real quick, we'll talk about this. R-Truth, Tozawa, Reggie are at a bachelor party. They realize that Dana Brooks at a bachelorette party. R-Truth says that's bad news. So we see the bachelorette party later. Nikki Ash is attacking Tamina and Dana, and then somehow the men teleport there, break up the fight. R-Truth says the 24/7 championship means the most to him, and that next week they're going to have a double wedding with Reggie and Dana and Tamina and Tozawa. I don't think there's much more to say about this than to explain what happened.
No, it was mildly entertaining, and that's about it.
Yeah. So
R-Truth is a funny guy, though.
he's entertaining. We got Bianca Belair coming out facing Zelina Vega. I said this last week too. After Zelina turned on Carmella, I said Zelina's going singles so they can put her in there with Bianca. Small person that Bianca could beat the hell out of. Really looks strong. Dominates her here. Hits a beautiful fallaway slam. She's got a top rope stalling military press slam that looked really beautiful. Then a devastating kiss of death. Goes for the pinfall. Gets the win. Sonya Deville's backstage talking to Pierce. Says, Bianca's been asking about her next title challenger, and I got it figured out now. So she comes out, says she's has a contract for the next title challenger. It's not Becky Lynch, not Bayley, not Asuka, not whoever else she named. And so I'm thinking, who the hell is it? Then she says it's going to be, and she baits Bianca into signing an open contract, says this is an open contract for a title defense. Bianca says she'll do it. Then she says, I'm not going to name the person. Bianca says, I'll sign it anyway. Bianca signs it. When she goes to unveil the person, we get a drum roll. We're all looking up the ramp. And then we get a chop block from behind by Sonya to Bianca. And Sonya reveals the news that she chose herself as the first challenger to Belair. Now, I think this is dumb to have Sonya face Belair, but again, I think it's dumb to have Nakamura face Reigns. And this is another situation where they're trying, where they're trying to not have all the focus on Bianca, because clearly Bianca and Becky overshadowed Ronda and Flair on night one. So you put Belair in a feud that she's going to win against someone that everybody fucking hates. Going to heat up her babyface heat. It's going to, if Sonya's trying to make any kind of in-ring return, there's not anybody better probably to protect her in the ring than Belair at this point. So do I think this is like the best opponent? No. Do I think that I'd rather see other people? Yeah, but I'm sure there's a reason for that. And I just think that they have Sonya set up in this thing for multiple reasons. It works just fine. The bigger opponents are going to come for Bianca. She needs to start small. She just became the champion. And this isn't a bad place to start as far as putting her up against someone who you're guaranteed to have fans behind her and fans booing her opponent. Because you don't want her first title defense to be against a split crowd. You know?
Right. Well, first of all, I totally agree with you. I thought it was going to be Bayley because of what Sonya said. She said, this person's been waiting a year. And when she said a year, I was just like, oh, it's maybe Bayley. I don't know. But you are 100% right, because people would have been freaking out for Bayley, and that leaves Bianca vulnerable. Not a good idea. The other thing, I've been hearing for months that Paige wants to come back as a GM potentially. And I wonder if maybe, and I probably not, but if this is like an angle to get, like where Adam Pearce was all mad at her, today, after she did that. Like, if you lose this match, you lose your title as SmackDown GM, and maybe you have Paige at ringside with Bianca cheering her on, so Paige gets that job. I don't know, but I'd like to see this have more stakes than simply it's Bianca versus Sonya and that's it, and then everything goes back to normal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but it's like I said, not every build, like from the fall, from Survivor Series on, basically everything's about, and especially from obviously Rumble on, everything is about WrestleMania, and right now we're not about WrestleMania. WrestleMania is the biggest fucking show of the year. It's the biggest thing. Everything's big. Right now, everything's not going to be big, but they have to do something. If they put Bianca up against Bayley now and she beats her, and they put Roman against Lashley now and he beats him, and they put everybody against the stiffest opponent now, then who the fuck are they going to put him against next? And that's why they have to tell this story in such a way that sort of has these questionable opponents, but if they make the aspects of it, the build and the motivations right, then it works. So the aspects I was talking about, with her being a known heel, a person that we don't think is that much of a threat to Bianca, it's something that will help cement her as a champion that everybody's behind. Because let's face it, not everybody wanted her to beat Becky, heel or face or not. A lot of people still remained huge Becky fans throughout all of this. So she's got to beat somebody who's a bona fide prick heel, and that's Sonya Deville.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Totally see your point. And it just, to me, again, like if they were planning on changing a GM, this is an angle to do it in and to make this a little bit bigger than a regular match.
Yeah, I don't know all the shit about. I haven't heard anything about GM changes or Paige doing anything. I mean, I've heard the rumors and things like that, but I haven't heard anything really from a credible person that anything is happening with her at this point. She's obviously said, "Yeah, I want to manage Rousey. I want to do this and that," but who knows what the fuck what's going on? I haven't heard it. Usually, if you'd hear something with your ear to the ground by now about something like that if it's happening anytime soon.
Sure.
But yeah, later on we get RK Bro and Alpha Academy. Exciting match. It really took the form. At first, it looked like it was going to be a little bit different because they got a quick tag Orton in, and RK Bro was in control at first, but it ended up being a typical RK Bro match. Riddle got worked over early. He fought through a blockbuster attempt by Gable and Otis. He was up on Gable's shoulder, or on Otis's shoulders. I'm sorry. Gable tried to go for the blockbuster, but he elbowed out of it, hit Orton with the hot tag. He hits a couple snap body slams, gets the draping DDT, goes for an RKO, gets blocked, but then immediately hits it and gets the 1-2-3. And then they're confronted by the Usos, who show up in an SUV. The crowd really loved RK Bro here. And they didn't like the Usos as much as they liked RK Bro. Usually at SmackDown, the Usos are getting all kinds of fanfare. But in this situation, you could tell who was over. What did you think about the RK Bro match with Alpha Academy? Now, the other thing I'll say about this match is as Gable made his entrance, he said that, they should be the number one contenders and that the Street Profits came in and ruined it and blah, 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 blah. The stipulation became if Alpha Academy wins, they get another title shot. If RK Bro wins, Alpha Academy can no longer challenge them. So this kind of makes sense. RK Bro wins. Now Alpha Academy cannot challenge them. And that moves us forward to the tag unification storyline. But what do you think of the match, man? Do you think it worked?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was really cool. I mean, we've seen it a bunch of times, but it was just great. Like, I love the things that Otis does. What Otis has been doing recently, which is kind of weird, is that he doesn't. Um, he does that body slam, and I think 2 out of 3 times he did it. I'm sorry, the splash. He doesn't go for the pin anymore. He just kind of sits up and he's like, But listen, it was great. I did like what Chad said about we watched SmackDown on Friday, and we're not going to let the R Tag Team Championships go to the other show, and blah blah blah. But yeah, this was really a very compelling segment or match, and a great last hour in general.
Yeah, the next tag match that finished the show was really good. So we get the Usos coming in on the black SUV. Um, they come out to confront RK Bro, saying that Roman sent them there to take the Raw Tag Team titles. RK Bro doesn't really want to stand for that. And we get the Street Profits crash that party. They come in and say, "Listen, we're the ones who challenged RK Bro until Alpha Academy got involved in it, so we're the ones who really deserve the shot." So then a bunch of bickering goes back and forth and shit talking, and Orton finally settles it and says, "Listen, you guys are going to have a match right now, and then if you win, you get a shot at us. If you lose, you don't." Speaking to the Usos. So on we go to the match between
One
the
thing
Street
about
Profits
this,
and Usos.
one criticism that I did have about this, which is kind of silly, but when they showed the Usos coming into the arena, it was broad daylight outside the arena, and you could see, where the truck pulled in and the cars pulled in. It was just bright sunlight, and you don't like to see that in the show that it's nighttime. Again, just an oversight on their behalf, probably, and probably 1% of the people watching noticed it. I just noticed it, and I just was saying to myself, wish they didn't really show that sunshine outside, because it wasn't like they were just rolling to the arena at that moment. But again, not a big deal.
Yeah, I don't think that matters at all, man. It's just a bad production moment for them. But
Right, exactly. Not a big deal.
yeah. But anyway, it's we end up getting the Street Profits against the Usos. Not necessarily a match we've seen a lot of recently, and they did an outstanding job here. Montez Ford hit a
Unbelievable.
beautiful,
Unbelievable.
picture perfect, arching all the way up to the goddamn ceiling. Frog splash, hits another beautiful cross body off the springboard to the ringside area. He also nailed a running senton, suicide senton on everybody in the back corner right before a commercial. We end up coming back from the corner. We even see Angelo Dawkins get some offense in here. He hits his 360 corner splash. They end up taking advantage of Dawkins hitting a double spine buster. Do the Usos throw him into the corner, take him out, hit the 1D on Montez Ford for the win. This match was back and forth, lots of action. I got 2 pages of fucking notes on it because there was so much shit that happened in it. But it was Usos end up going over, end up having RK Bro come in there. Otis, somebody tries, I think it was Dawkins tried to take out Riddle. Riddle ended up countering that, and they both went over the top rope. Then you got Gable and Orton in the ring. This as Usos are backing up the ramp, so we think the Usos are leaving. Orton nails an RKO on Gable, and then, he hits an RKO on Ford because Ford's in the ring there. Alpha Academy had vacated. And then right after the RKO, all of a sudden we have the Usos nail Orton with stereo super kicks. Usos stand tall here, and it looks like we're going to be getting a tag unification title match. And I don't know where the hell they're going with this shit.
Yeah, man, because they're backing themselves into the same corner. Like, you think you might have a problem with Roman in the belts. Now, what problem are you going to have when you unify these? Then you have even less titles. I don't. Again, I don't love it, but I love the matchup. You know what I mean? I think the matchup is awesome, and you want it to be meaningful. I just, again, like you said, I don't know where we're going.
Yeah, I mean,
Give me a prediction.
well, I'll say this about what they did tonight. I thought it was really well done, and it makes sense why the run sheet I had originally, and we didn't talk about the fact that we had Theory backstage talking to Pierce and DeVille. Basically, he tells him to call him Theory from now on, drop the Austin. So I wonder if that's going to be a thing. They want to drop Austin from his name so he's not, confused with Stone Cold Steve Austin, makes him a little more unique. I can't wrap my head around calling a person Theory.
No, I hate it. Hate it, man. I hate it. Theory? Come on, man.
Yeah. How about, call me, I don't even fucking know. How about just keep your fucking name Austin Theory and shut
Keep
the
it.
fuck up?
Austin Theory is a great name. Second of all, if you then call yourself AT or something, like maybe that's not the best option, but it can't be. Your name can't be Theory, man. Come on.
Yeah, and so he sits there and other than the name change, he requests that he face Finn Balor for the U.S. title next week, which I told everybody before the show was going to happen. I saw Finn Balor listed as the opponent for AJ Styles, and I said, they're going to change this. I'm not for AJ Styles, Finn Balor and Damian Priest. And I said to everybody, this isn't happening. It's going to be AJ Styles and Priest, and Balor's going to face Theory next week for the U.S. title. Lo and behold, it happened. And I'm not a genius for being right or anything, or for being first or whatever it sounds like I'm trying to say. I'm just saying that what they did made complete sense in my view. Why the fuck would Balor face Priest now? You know what I mean?
course.
So next week we got Balor and Theory for the U.S. title. I think they're gonna give Theory the title there. What do you think about that matchup next week?
Well, I think it's going to be really interesting, and I think Theory's going to win the title. I hate calling him Theory. I want them to be like, nope, we made a mistake. It's still Austin Theory. I really want them to change that, man. It's awful, awful. His name is Theory. Like, I have a theory. It just sounds so lame. It's just really stupid, man. And I think a name is a huge part of everyone's success. Stone Cold, The Rocks, Roman Reigns, great names mean something. And
Hornswoggle.
yeah, there you go, Hornswoggle, another great one. But to me, a guy named Theory is going to be the top of everything with no first name. It just sucks, man. I really
Listen,
hate
man. Let's just hope it was a fucking shtick, and he's just saying that bullshit. You know what I'm saying?
it.
Hopefully, he's not actually doing that. Maybe it was a test thing. And they're going to check social media for how many people say it's the dumbest fucking thing ever. And then if they do, they'll make it his name Theory.
It really fucking sucks, man.
But, I mean, we can't get hung up on that. We don't know if that's going to happen. I'm looking forward to seeing that match because Balor's, always got good matches if he wants. Theory's an up-and-comer. If they're going to put, it looks like they're trying to put the rocket ship on him a little bit. So give him the U.S. title for a minute, have him drop it to the next baby face. I'm fine with that. Also next week we're going to get Owens having a fucking lie detector test with Ezekiel. What do you think about that scenario?
It's going to be a very funny, humorous comedy segment, obviously. I'm really looking forward to that. I think it's going to be great. Fantastic.
Yeah, Owens is just, he's something else on the microphone, man. He even that stuff with Ciampa and Ciampa and Ezekiel tonight. He's sitting there. His name is not Ezekiel. His name is not Ezekiel. He's a liar. And it's just so funny the way he's getting all worked up about it. And then he said, "Show me his ID, his library card, something." And they were like, "We don't have that stuff." And he's like, "You can't release his library card? Are you kidding me?" Like, library card of all things.
Hilarious, man.
Funny, man.
Did you notice that Kevin Owens was wearing a Dusty Rhodes shirt, which I found interesting? I don't know if that's part of the Cody Rhodes, thing, or it's just a Dusty Rhodes shirt, but it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, and then during the Miz TV, Miz was actually mocking Dusty's lip. You know what I'm saying? Best of all time, baby.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
that wasn't cool.
But a funny part of that was when Miz got up when my hand goes up, your mouth goes shut. You could visibly see Cody Rhodes couldn't control his laughter. He was just laughing, man. He just couldn't control it. He just couldn't.
Yeah, man. I figured this was in Detroit tonight. The crowd was really good. They were real hot for the Street Profits match. They were hot.
Good crowd.
Hot for Cody. They were getting hot for AJ Styles before they turned the goddamn lights off for him. And, they got Jimmy Smith coming back to us saying, "Oh, power has been restored." Do they really need to play that bullshit?
So stupid, man. They're one of the worst endings to a match I've ever seen. Really.
Yeah. At least we didn't have to see 15 minutes of Edge coming out talking about Judgment Day, though. I mean, like I say, I'll keep an open mind with everything, see where it goes. I like the idea of veteran working with our younger talents, but they need to stop that ridiculousness in the middle of the show. Last week in Dallas, they hated it. Maybe they listened to the fans and said, "We're not going to dedicate that much to it." And that's fine.
Yeah.
But and then we had the marriage of the wedding of Graves and Carmella this week. So we had Jerry Lawler on commentary replacing Graves. And I felt like Lawler added something unique tonight. And this show felt a lot different. He didn't say too much, but the things he did say were impactful. And like you could feel his heel commentary presence. And he said some funny shit. And he wasn't out of line, but I just feel like the King just brings a different feel to the commentary booth that makes it feel more. It just brings me back to a simpler time, man. You know,
No doubt, man.
he was the commentator when I was a kid, and so
Yeah, he was good, man. He was sharp tonight, man. He was not. He didn't miss a beat, and he took on that heel role that Corey Graves always plays. You know, like he's kind of rooting for the bad guys. You know, the Usos are fantastic. You know, but
he's out
he
there
was good.
saying, "Come on, referee, help him, help Miz, get Miz the rope."
Yeah,
You know, it's so funny when he says shit like that. Like,
so funny.
what? Like, I don't hear Graves saying shit like that. You know, referee, help him. What are you doing?
Yeah, it was terrific. It was so good, and it did have a different feel because of the King out there. I loved it, man. I thought this was a terrific episode, start to finish. Now, give me your just some where you think all this goes, or you think this was. Do you think this was an impactful episode in the big picture?
Yeah, I do, because, and I think that they did it the right way. They got a lot of shit going on right now. It's like after WrestleMania, springtime, new beginnings for plants and life and everything. New beginnings is WWE for their storylines. We have Lashley's one starting out. McIntyre's looking to work with Zayn right now. Roman's working with Shinsuke Nakamura. The tag title thing's making sense now because they booked everything at the end so that you wouldn't be like, well, wait a minute. What about Alpha Academy? What about, they made it clear that the bona fide two teams that should be going for any kind of unification thing are the Usos and RK Bro. There's no fucking beef that the Profits or Alpha Academy should have in this. And the crowd's obviously way white hot for RK Bro. I don't know what they can do. If they have Usos go over, then they're crushing one of their biggest acts they have. However, they seem to be pretty into this, at least until they find the circumstance or the person to take a belt or all the belts from Roman. They might be on this, let's try putting all the gold on the bloodline for a little bit. And so that's honestly how I see it playing out. I think that the Usos are going to take the Raw belts at the next pay-per-view. It's going to be temporary, but the bloodline's going to be carrying around 7 belts or whatever. That's my prediction.
Wow, man. And Raw's going to be left with no belts on the whole show, except for Austin Theory or Theory.
I mean, who knows? I mean, do you see RK Bro beating the Usos and taking their belts?
Yeah, because I could see it as like a greed angle that like Roman lost, and then he kind of starts panicking, and then it starts unraveling a little bit, and then maybe he loses the WWE Championship at some point shortly thereafter. What's the pay-per-view after Backlash? Do you know?
This year, I'll look it up real quick. But as far as that goes, I can see the Usos fucking this up too, and that's why I thought that they might lose um, at WrestleMania to Boogs Nakamura, because then you'd have this doubt going over the bloodline through the whole rest of the show. It was the first match, so all the way up until the main event, you're going to wonder, is the bloodline falling apart because the Usos lost? And they did end up losing. Now, maybe RK Bro beats them, takes their titles, and so it weakens the bloodline a little bit, and then instills that doubt in the bloodline that we were looking for. Or they could totally fucking give it some power. But really, if they do lose, I think the main purpose of that is to set up something. If RK Bro does win, I think the purpose is to get a feud going with Orton and Reigns, because Orton's another babyface that's tied up that we could see with Reigns.
Yeah, man. I take it from the other angle because, well, when the Usos were standing up with all the belts tonight, it did have a reminiscent feel of Roman standing over Brock in Madison Square Garden, holding up both belts with the foreshadowing, and it felt like the same type of thing tonight, no doubt about it. But I just think there was something, a greed element that villains always lose with the greed element. And I think in any movie that you've ever seen, and again, not to be repetitive, but it just feels like you said, the Usos might fuck this up, and then it starts unraveling, and maybe this gets Roman, quote unquote, rattled, like his plan isn't working, and it didn't come to fruition, and it didn't come to pass. I don't think anyone's going to think less of the bloodline, really, honestly, if they did lose the championships to RK Bro. And then you can create a very interesting program where they're scrambling to get him back. They're trying to do whatever they can, and Roman's ordering them to do it, and then Roman's maybe a little distracted, a little off his game, and that's how he eventually loses one of his championships to someone on Raw. I could also see him saying, "Oh, you guys can't do it. I'm going over to Raw to get those damn belts back myself, and you're going to watch how it's done." Da, 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 da. And then maybe that leads to a Randy thing at the next pay-per-view, which I think is it Hell in a Cell? Who knows?
Getting ready to tell you there, buddy. We're going to close this one out, okay?
Yep.
Like I said, good Raw tonight, man. Detroit, good crowd, good matches. Moving on, looks like we're going to see some tag title unification attempt. We're going to see Bianca Belair defend her title against that stupid bitch, Sonya Deville. We're going to see Roman Reigns likely with Shinsuke Nakamura. Still need some time to confirm that, see what happens on SmackDown. We do have Ricochet defending his Intercontinental title against Jinder Mahal on SmackDown. We'll see what happens with that. We're going to get the women's tag team title match next Monday between Sasha Banks and Naomi and the team of Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan. Live for Brutality. Doesn't seem like they'll be living for much longer with the rumors of the split coming. And on top of that, we haven't seen Rhea out there for Liv at all. Cody Rhodes had a good night, had a great match. Exciting night here for WWE. Tommaso Ciampa was in the house. We're going to see a lie detector test next week. A lot of shit on the horizon. Got any final thoughts for us, Brad?
No, this was a great show by you, Matt, and I like everything you said tonight. Great job.
All right, man. That's all we got. Remember to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to Beyond the Mat. Follow us on Twitter at BeyondMattWWE and email me at matt@beyondthemat.com. We're out. We'll see you on Wednesday with our weekend review. And take care, Big Pool. Thanks for giving us the shout out, buddy. Have a good night, everybody.